Hey folks, Professor Finn here, and today we're going to be talking about diseases caused by Mycoplasmas, Rickettsias, or Chylamidias, Chapter 26 from the Pathology Microbiology for Funeral Service Students by Mullins. Let's go ahead and get the screen shared and jump into the lecture. Very short one today. So first things first, all of these chapters, I've said it in other videos, I'm going to say it again here. When you are ready to study for your board exams, this is exactly what you need to be looking at right here. Jump to the tables. It gives you a snapshot of all the information that you need. I would photocopy these, paste them onto another page, put them in your notes so that way you don't have to dig out the book. Everything you need to know is right there. So if you need to know what causes epidemic typhus, you know it's Rickettsia prowazekii, how it's transmitted through human body lice. Please know the difference between a fomite and a vector, right? That matters. And then when it comes to signs and symptoms, I have students ask this fairly regularly. We have all of these things. What's important? Well, the first thing is if there are things that are shared between diseases, those are likely not going to be something that is asked to differentiate between a disease. So if I say, hey, which one of these has a headache? Well, Coxiella burnetii has a headache, Ricketsia prowazekii has headache, Rickettsia rickettsii has headache, and Rickettsia typhi has headache, but the way they phrase it is, this is the same as this, but less severe. Not the one you want to focus on, waste of your time. However, if we look at prowazekii, we have CNS impairment, picking at bedclothes, that's really interesting, black tongue with white fur, that would be important. We have Rickettsia rickettsii. We have kidney and heart failure. That doesn't appear anywhere else. We have malaise. You know, that's a word that's not used with others. That would be important. Those are the things you kind of hone in on that don't appear in other areas so that you can make comparisons and kind of focus on what the quote-unquote most important difference is. And then you would do that for pretty much everything that's here. So let's jump right into Mycoplasma pneumoniae. Mycoplasmas were once thought to be viruses, but they are actually the smallest free-living organisms in nature. These microbes are resistant to penicillin and similar antibiotics because they do not possess a cell wall. So very important, mycoplasmas are the smallest free-living organisms. They are resistant to antibiotics because they don't have a cell wall. And historically, we thought they were viruses. Mycoplasma pneumoniae is a slowly growing aerobic organism, and it looks like a fried egg. So that would be a very important characteristic that is easy test fodder. M. pneumoniae is capable of adhering to the epithelium of mucosal surfaces in the respiratory and urogenital tracts. It is not removed by the passage of urine or mucus secretions. Well, that's clear. If you have something attaching to you and you could just basically pee over it and rinse it out, wouldn't survive very long, so it has to develop something in order to hold on to itself, hold on to the tissues around it. These microbes are spread through aerosol droplet spray produced by coughing. M. pneumoniae can cause a variety of diseases, but the most common is atypical or walking pneumonia. Very important fact, Mycoplasma pneumoniae causes walking pneumonia or atypical pneumonia. About half of the cases of pneumonia in the military and 20% in the general population are caused by this microorganism. Living together in closed spaces heightens the risk of contracting walking pneumonia. Now, you will probably say, oh, that's an important thing. Let's go ahead and write that down. Well, here's a fact. If this is spread by aerosolization by coughing, this isn't specific to Mycoplasma pneumoniae. This is specific to any aerosolized degree. So if you can just remember what and how Mycoplasma pneumoniae is and how it's transmitted, automatically, if you're living in a closed space, that's going to be the fact of any aerosolized disease, that you're going to just have a greater chance of infection if you work around small closed spaces. Next up is Rickettsias. Rickettsias are short, non-motile, gram-negative bacilli that are obligate intracellular pathogens. Most of the family are transmitted to human hosts by arthropod vectors, where they infect the endothelial cells of the human vascular system and result in local blockages of small blood vessels. Rickettsia are uniquely adapted to their arthropod host in that they typically cause no disease or only minimal disease in the arthropod. In some cases, when the arthropod bear young, the Rickettsia are passed along to the new generation of offspring. Arthropods, therefore, are not only vectors for Rickettsia, they are also reservoirs. This does not hold true for Rickettsias prowazekii, as this specific microorganism causes the death of the arthropod vector, which happens to be the human body lice, and the human acts as a natural reservoir. Very important fact. If Ricketsias prowazekii kills its host and it's the only one that does it, that would be an important fact to note about this microorganism. Rocky Mountain spotted fever is the most severe rickettsial infection. It is caused by Rickettsia rickettsii. Now, obviously, that is an important piece of information if it is the most severe infection that can be caused by Rickettsias. Rocky Mountain spotted fever is most prevalent in the southeastern United States and in Appalachia, although it was first reported in the Rocky Mountains. So, some important test fodder right there. Rickettsias rickettsii is a parasite found in a variety of ticks. The pathogen is passed from one generation of ticks to another through their eggs. After being passed through the saliva of the tick to the human, the microbes multiply in the cytoplasm of the human cells. The microbes then pass directly through the cellular membranes into adjacent cells without damaging the host cells. A rash similar to measles is present in cases of Rocky Mountain spotted fever, with the exception that it is found on the soles of the feet and the palms of the hand. It starts in the extremities, then spreads towards the trunk. The rash is not normally present on the neck or face. Death occurs in approximately 3% of the reported cases due to kidney and heart failure. If left untreated, death can occur in 20% of the cases. Next up is typhus. Epidemic typhus, or louse-borne typhus, is caused by Rickettsia prowazekii. This microbe grows in the intestinal tract of human body lice and is found in flying squirrels located in the eastern United States. The disease is transmitted when the human scratches the wound, rubbing fecal matter into the bite left by the human body louse. The louse typically becomes infected with the disease and leaves when the human becomes febrile. Epidemic typhus is found primarily in crowded areas with poor sanitation and is still common in Africa, Central America, and South America. Drop the pen. Let's pick that back up. At one time, epidemic typhus was prevalent among sailors aboard ships and soldiers in military camps. The tongue may be covered with a white fur or be black and rolled up in the back of the mouth. A measles-like rash is present on the body, which includes the palms of the hands and the soles of the feet. The rash begins in the trunk of the body and spreads away. The neck and face are seldom involved. So some very important things here, okay? First is, with Rocky Mountain spotted fever, it starts in the extremities and works its way in. With epidemic typhus, it starts in the trunk and works its way out. The mortality rate of epidemic typhus is high, 40%, when it is not treated. Endemic typhus, or murine typhus, or flea-borne typhus, is caused by Rickettsia typhi. This microbe is harbored in rats and is transmitted by the rat flea to humans, although the flea infests many domestic animals. Endemic typhus is usually self-resolving and complications are rare. Rat control obviously decreases the occurrence. Endemic typhus's symptoms are similar yet less severe than epidemic typhus. There is rarely a rash in endemic typhus, and if one does occur, it is usually confined to the trunk and extremities. It is rarely found on palms and soles. Next up, we have Q fever. Q fever is caused by the pathogen Coxiella burnetii. The cause of the outbreak of the disease in Queensland, Australia, named during the 1930s was unknown, so the disease was named Q fever from the word query. Coxiella burnetii is resistant enough to survive airborne transmission, although most Rickettsia are not. So two important things here. The first is Coxiella burnetii can survive airborne transmission, but Ricketsias as a whole are not resistant enough to survive airborne transmission. So not the fact you were looking for, but a fact that is hitting in there. That is something that you should hone in on and drop that in your notes. It is passed from animal to animal via tick bite after ticks feed on infected cattle. Humans become infected by ingesting contaminated milk or inhaling aerosols of the microbe in dairy barns, especially from placental material at calving time. Handling infected animals places workers at a higher risk of infection. Other sources of infection include meat and hide processing plants. No rash is present in cases of Q fever. The disease usually resolves without treatment in humans after about 2 weeks. Fatal endocarditis can occur up to 20 years after infection in a small percentage of cases. Chlamydia. 3 human pathogen species of chlamydia are Chlamydia trachomatis, Chlamydia psittaci, and Chlamydia pneumoniae. These organisms are classified as bacteria due to the presence of certain structures in their cell walls and their ability to reproduce through binary fission, but they only grow intracellularly. Chlamydia have a unique growth cycle because they are incapable of producing enough energy by themselves. Hence, they are obligate intracellular parasites. Chlamydia have 2 stages of growth, and you know this is going to be important. First up, you have the elementary body. The first form of the organism is infectious and is referred to as an elementary body. Elementary school becomes first, or occurs first. The second form is non-infectious and is known as a reticulate body. The elementary body infects non-ciliated, columnar, or transitional epithelial cells that line the conjunctiva, respiratory tract, or rectum. The elementary bodies utilize energy sources within the human cell and then develop into reticulate bodies. The mature reticulate bodies multiply within the cell through binary fission. They then form new elementary bodies after dividing for about 2 days. When the human cell ruptures, these infectious forms of chlamydia infect adjacent cells, allowing the bacteria to spread within the host. The causative agent of chlamydial pneumonia is a recently recognized species of bacteria known as Chlamydia pneumoniae. This organism is an important respiratory pathogen known to cause some nasty diseases. It is believed to be a causative agent in otitis media, asthma, and cardiovascular disease. It is the 3rd most common cause of infectious respiratory diseases, accounting for about 10% of outpatient and hospitalized cases of pneumonia. In addition, about 90% of the infections show no symptoms and therefore go undiagnosed. It is still unknown how these infections are spread. Chlamydia trachomatis. This microorganism causes inflammation of the urinary tract in a sexually transmitted disease known as lymphogranuloma venereum. Chlamydia trachomatis is the most commonly spread sexually transmitted bacterial pathogen in the United States. You know that is a super important fact. There are between 4 and 10 million cases, new cases each year. In addition to sexually transmitted chlamydia, a worldwide epidemic of blindness has been caused by this microorganism. When it spreads to the eye, a trachoma, a chronic contagious form of conjunctivitis that forms lesions, develops. Best way to remember this is a trachoma is an eye lesion. The organism is spread from person to person, person to fomite, and fly to person. C. trachomatis is shed in the feces of infected persons, so once again, refrain from the urge to play with other people's feces. The urinary tract infection caused by this microorganism is known as NGU, non-gonococcal urethritis, or NSU, non-specific urethritis. Chlamydia is the most frequently reported infectious disease in the United States. Super important fact, chlamydia is the most frequently reported infectious disease in the United States. The sexually transmitted disease, lymphogranuloma venereum, appears 7 to 12 days after exposure when a blister appears on the genitals. This vesicle ruptures and heals painlessly. In 1 to 8 weeks, the regional lymph nodes enlarge and can become suppurative, which means they are infected with pus. 75% of women and 50% of men have no symptoms, so most people are not even aware of their infection and will not seek treatment. Lack of treatment allows the disease to spread, providing for more severe consequences later in life. Untreated, chlamydia causes pelvic inflammatory disease, which can result in infertility and birth defects. Chlamydial infections also increase the chance of becoming infected with HIV if exposed. Chlamydial infections are easily treated and cured with antibiotics. Teenage girls have the highest rate of chlamydial infection, 15 to 19-year-olds representing 46% of infections. 20 to 24-year-old women represent another 33%. Isn't that crazy that between the ages of 15 and 24, you are getting 79% of chlamydial infections? So very important, okay, very important that if you are working, that you are wearing your proper PPEs. And one thing that I recommend is if you are working in the funeral industry or around dead bodies, that every time you go in for your annual, you just have an STD panel done to check for anything that you might have picked up from prep along the way. Parrot fever, or psittacosis or ornithosis, is a disease caused by Chlamydia psittaci, a gram-negative obligate intracellular bacterium. It receives its name from its association with psittacine birds such as parrots and parakeets. It can also be contracted from pigeons and other poultry. If it has wings, you might get parrot fever from it. Psittacosis is a form of pneumonia that causes fever, headache, and chills. C. psittaci is spread to humans by inhaling the aerosolized microbes from bird droppings. So let's not make this the next designer drug. People who work with birds are most at risk for this disorder, although those who work in buildings that provide nesting sites for birds may become infected as well. The bacteria enter buildings through ventilation systems. So courthouses, city buildings, anything with ledges near roofs and air intakes are excellent candidates for nesting and hence can become vectors and should be checked for bird feces and cleaned appropriately. All right, folks, that concludes this lecture. We will see you next time.